So now we know that only about a third of matches go to 3 sets. What's crucial for long-term success with this strategy is to find a way to improve that win rate, to find matches that are best suited for laying the first set winner. And what we need to do here is we look at how well both players performed during the first set. We need to understand the difference in their ranking and why that matters. Any previous head-to-head matches, have any of those gone to 3 sets? And also, are the odds worthwhile? In other words, is this a trade that really you should be bothering yourself with? Because if the downside is a lot greater than the upside, then really you should move on and wait for the next opportunity. So let's have a look at the first one and see how well we can assess how each player performed during the first set. So the kind of stats that we're looking at here, and they're available in both BETFAIR and flashscore.com. In fact, if I show you this slide here, on the left-hand side is a screenshot from a match that's underway. We can see the first set, the stats for each player. And what you need to do is you need to compare that with a year-to-date figure. But let's just have a look at the ones that we're interested in. So we're looking at service games won and return games won, how well they performed during the first set. We're looking at their break points saved and break points converted, as well as service points won and return points won. And these in isolation don't really mean much because there weren't that many points in one set. But when you compare those ratios to their year-to-date stats at ATP or WTA websites, and if we have a look at this slide here, on the right-hand side we can see the stats for both players on the ATP website. And you can see, for example, if we look at breakpoints saved for Ruud, so on the left in the first set he achieved 50%, and if we look at his stats for breakpoints saved year to date across all the matches that he's played, it's around about 62%. Now you can't look too much into one aspect here, but it does give you a sense that perhaps he played poorly in the first set compared to how he would normally play over a series of matches. Now, of course, those ATP stats are based on different matches with different players, so we are looking at averages of averages, but it gives us a sense of how well did he perform compared to how well he's performed in other matches. It's important to say here that there are no magic numbers. It's not a case of if someone gets a service point ratio in excess of this or that, or return games won greater or lesser than this. What we're trying to understand here is, did the first set winner have an unusually good set, or did the first set loser make a few errors but otherwise played well? That's really what we're trying to discover here when we look and compare the statistics from the first set. So what we need to answer here is, do you believe, looking at those stats, that the first set winner did play better than their average? And did the first set loser play worse than their average? And basically, if the answer to either of these questions is yes, and remember, it's your answer, there is no definitive outcome on this one, it's just your belief. Well, you believe that either one of those two statements is true. Then if one of those is true, then yes, you should consider this match for trading. That's just based currently on the performance of both players during the first set. You also need to consider the difference in ranking. Now, why does this matter? Ranking, as we've seen on the ATP and WTA websites, is built up over many, many months of playing matches. What you tend to find is that the higher ranked player, or rather the lower ranked player, so single figures versus 20 or 30 or whatever, the reason they've got those lower ranking figures is because they've been consistently good over many, many matches over many, many months. And what we found here through the data analysis that we've done on all the matches is that if the difference between two players is greater than 50, and that the player with the lowest rank won the first set, and what we mean by lower here is actually higher. In other words, they may be ranked 70 and they may be playing a player who's 25 or something. If the player ranked 70th won the first set, then consider trading this match, because typically the better ranked player will have the belief and perhaps the energetic reserves to make a comeback and at least win the second set, if not go on to win the match. Previous head-to-head matches is another area, an important area to look at, and this comes down really to the belief of one player thinking that they can actually make a comeback. If you look at and again this is a screenshot from flashscore.com, looking at the previous head-to-head matches, what you're looking at here is to say, are any of those matches within the last, let's say 2 years, 3 years, something like that, did any of them go to 3 sets? Because if they did, then both players have an understanding that they can take a set off their opponent. And they can lose it as well, which will also play in their mind. And finally, have a look at the odds to see if it's worthwhile. We look at a couple of examples here. If the odds after first set for the first set winner is 1.7 and you put a stake, you're risking £70. If they lose the second set, in other words you win, then their odds will go back to roughly where they were at the start of the match, which in this example is 3.8. So they were at 1.7 after they won the first set. They then lost the second set, their odds go up to 3.8. If you then hedge out using that stake value of 100, you'll end up with a profit of around about £55, which, as you can see, is a return on your investment, the investment being what you were risking, is around about 78%. If the odds after the first set for the winner of the first set were 1.2 and you put on the same stake value, you're now only risking £20. If they lose the second set, their odds will go back up to roughly where they were, which in this case would be around about 1.8. And if you do the maths there, you'll hedge out for a profit of £33. Now that, on a much lower risk of £20, is a much better return on investment of 165%. Now, what does that mean? Would you rather make £55 or would you rather make £33? Or would you rather make 165% ROI as opposed to 78%? These are individual decisions that only you can make, but it's worthwhile to put the numbers in, and we've got a hedging calculator on our website that will do the sums for you, and an odds predictor tool so you can work out where they went back to. And really, this is again a factor in you deciding, should I get involved with laying the first set winner on this particular match after the first set? So in summary, you need to assess the first set and decide how confident you feel about the match going to 3 sets. And remember, this is just, you're trying to assess your own probability outcome here based on the information that you've assessed. And secondly, calculate how much money you could win or lose, and you decide if it's worthwhile of your time and your money. In the next lesson, we'll get into the detail of this strategy and see how we actually make money.